going to go through a bunch of stuff about using social media for cycle campaigning. First up, I don't know if you've heard of this guy. He's 92-year-old and he regularly uses Twitter, so don't say you're too old to learn things like Twitter.
Damn! That was going to be my first excuse. There's always one, isn't there?
One of them Sean's.
There to show us up. I'm actually 93, so...
He's probably older than that. Oh, yeah.
You're looking pretty good for 93.
Yeah. So I'm going to go through. Oh no, I should have added something else on that. Anyway, possibly. Anyway, yeah. So I'm going to kind of go through WordPress briefly, Facebook, Twitter, Cyclescape, and there will be a bit of Google groups in there as well. So WordPress, it's a blogging platform. Over kind of recent times, the functionality's been expanded to make it more of a bit more like a content management platform, to kind of run full websites and so on. It's used for the Ipswich website. It's now hosted on some server that I use, so we've now got the full domain.
But it still operates off WordPress?
So it operates off the WordPress software and integrates with the WordPress website. So if you've got a WordPress.com login, you can just use that to log into the Cycle Ipswich website.
Right.
I'm already lost actually, because I can't quite understand how you can take something from WordPress and put it on your server, and then we interact with that.
Okay, so what I've done is exported off all the content, so extracted all the content from the WordPress.com and and then imported it into the installation on my web server.
Okay, I'd best not have asked that question.
Yeah, I'm fairly not.
So it's a bit like copying the files from one server to another server, and then running them from there using the same software, but running on a different machine.
So you've got something that replicates the look of WordPress on your server.
Okay, so I think what you're missing out is, so you've got WordPress.com, which is and then you've got WordPress.org. So WordPress is a bit of open source software that anyone can run on their own server, and WordPress.com is a commercial version of that, which has support and
bangs and whistles.
So which one are we talking about here? Is this WordPress.org or WordPress.com or both?
So .org is just the software, and you download that and run it on your own server.
Right. Okay.
Which is what we've done. But you can move from using WordPress.com to using your own server relatively easily,
right?
And which is what I've done.
Okay. So if I wanted to start blogging, for example, about the joys and tribulations of cycling in Ipswich, and I wanted to do that on WordPress by setting up my own blog, where would I go to do that?
So am
I getting ahead of myself here? Or?
Oh no, it's perfectly valid to do it at this stage. So you've got two options. If you are technical enough and you've got a server, which you probably don't have, you can run your own installation and so on.
Right.
Or you can go to WordPress.com and sign up and create a blog there, and it will be, you can create the Radical Ipswich cycling blog. .wordpress.com.
Okay.
So previously it was cyclipswich.wordpress.com, but it's not got quite as good, particularly for an organisation. It's not particularly good for SEO.
No.
I've got a question. I've got a WordPress.com blog, but I very rarely post on it. Okay. What is if you want to get seen? So when somebody searches for that particular content that they're looking for, whether it be whatever infrastructure or something.
Yeah.
And something you've said that has infrastructure as a tag, because I'd like to talk about, or like you to talk about tags and their importance, and also the frequency with which you post. And is that important?
The more frequent you post, the more likely the content will get picked up and the higher search engine rankings you'll get. The more kind of original content you've got on there, the higher.
Not retweeting, you mean, not reblogging them?
Yeah, so if you just take a bunch of content from one other person and chuck it onto your blog, you'll get negative ratings.
But Ian's blog that he's going to do saying about Ipswich and how great it is to cycle around will be very unusual, unique in fact. So, so he'll get very high rankings because his content will be unique.
Yeah.
Is that right?
It's then a case of having the right people searching for the right terms. So the other thing is when you're writing content, kind of one of the tips that I've come across is by saying the same thing in multiple ways means that you can, if you use the right language, you're more likely to get people finding your website. Just because just because you're using terms that people are searching for.
Right. But how do you know what those are?
It's a bit of an art, that one.
Right.
So it's quite difficult to do. So yeah.
So Kevin, I've just I think got your blog. You also have blogspot.co.uk.
Yeah.
Is that different?
It's Blogspot. Yeah, it's just a different platform. So Blogspot is kind of.
Is that you?
Yeah, it's blog. If it's the one I think it is, it'll be Blogspot, which is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Which is linked to Google.
Right. Oh dear. Is that the best one? This must be the better one to have then. Yeah, because Google's the biggest search engine, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Well, also having a. Being on either Blogger or WordPress.com, you do benefit from the subdomain, because the WordPress.com is so heavily, so because of you're a subdomain of that, you then actually gain from it. So
okay.
There is an element of that. But yeah, it's just a case of writing the same. And then it's also going away and tweeting about it. Putting it, automatically pushing out to things like Google Plus.
Yeah, can I just ask you a quick question? Because I used to have it set up so anything I put on my blog would go through to my Facebook.
Yeah.
I don't think it went anywhere else, but I seem to have stopped doing that. Have they stopped offering that?
I had it set up like that years ago, and Facebook went and. So it was getting added as notes.
Right.
Or but
I don't
Facebook.
know how it worked, but
Facebook. There was a way of doing it, which Facebook stopped because they wanted people to add original content. Well, not original, but to be able to post, not automatically posting links, but to post a link with something else written about it. That's what Facebook wanted, so that's why they stopped that. But it's probably just worth going away and. There will probably be some other plugin which will allow you to, or some other feature now that
will
allow
allow
you
benefit to that though, because it's actually getting your message out there on more than one platform.
That's right, yeah.
And you're saving time for yourself.
Yes.
You're not doing what Google wants you to do, which is to visit their page and look at their website.
Yeah.
And see some advertising. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Facebook.
Yeah. Sorry. How important is Google Plus, seeing as you've mentioned it?
Not hugely. I wouldn't spend huge amounts of time on it, but I certainly do get the odd bits of interaction when I'm automatically posting stuff there. So I do get people.
How are you automatically posting stuff?
From WordPress. From my own blog, I've got it set up to automatically post.
Oh, you've got. Oh, okay. You've got to remember the software that does that.
Yeah. So there's a bit of WordPress. The WordPress integration which allows you to do that.
Okay, thanks.
So the Cycle Ipswich website, you can use the WordPress.com login, so you don't need to remember your another username and password. It's mobile friendly as well. And as you can see in this slide, you'll see the little lines at the top right, little square. So if you click that, it will expand down, and the menu which you normally see on the left hand side, that then appears at the top of the page, so then you can access that.
What's that? Sorry, say that again, I missed that.
So if it's a mobile site, right. So a mobile or a small screen, it will look more like this.
Okay, got you.
And to be able to get to the menu on the left hand side, you click the little thing on the top right.
Got you.
That's fairly standard practice for a lot of websites now. And so if you're ever on a mobile optimized website and you're wondering how to access that menu bar, that menu which you normally see, then that's why. If you're on a desktop and you narrow down the window, you'll get exactly the same effect.
Okay.
The other nice thing about WordPress is you can go and draft a post or make it ready for review, and let other people review it before it gets published.
Okay.
You can even set it up such that you can enable an option allow public use, allow to publicly review this, and you get a special URL which you can then use to allow people. The other thing is we can set up permissions where you can create a blog post but not publish it, and it's then up to someone else to then hit the publish button.
What would be the advantage of doing that?
So then you can restrict, or so that it's basically so you can review any content before it gets published.
Right.
So you can then have people who can write content, but you don't want them publishing stuff without it getting reviewed first.
Yeah.
So it could be, for example, that the members who are not actually coming that often to meetings, so not really in tune necessarily, but they have certain opinions which are valid.
Yeah.
We can ask them to contribute, but they get it reviewed first.
Yeah. Yeah,
Say if 2 or 3 of us had a read of it and said, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be one way of doing it. And it would also mean that you can have it there. The other one is I can then write something up. So I've got something which I've written somewhere else which I want to publish. So I can then if I was to put it into WordPress, put it in as a draft and say, hey, what do other people think about this? Are you happy with this? And then I can go and publish it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I like that.
So I've now put in a new event system. I'm going to shuffle around such that the home page isn't going to sit there and show all the blog posts. I'm going to move that to a news page. But this kind of allows, this is a feature which posting on WordPress.com would have been difficult to implement, or not possible to implement. There's calendar sync support, so if you use a desktop calendar or a calendar on your phone, you can automatically pull in all the events from, or you can subscribe to all the events on the website.
How do we do that?
So if you go to cycleipswich.org.uk/events,
That's where I am.
Down at the bottom there's the text. You can subscribe to the events in your calendar software using this URL. So if you copy that URL and take that into your calendar software, you should find a way of being able to subscribe to that URL.
I just use a Samsung calendar on my phone.
Yeah, you should be able to do it on the phone as well.
Okay.
I don't know the exact step for doing it on the phone.
No, but it'd be obvious
Google,
if I look at it. Okay.
But yes, if you Google for your bit of software and subscribe to, you should be able to find the settings for it.
Right.
For the icon. Quick mention about Google Groups. I think you're both on the Google Groups, so it's not hugely. You can get all the messages are grouped by the threads. You've got you can choose to have individual emails or digest emails. I'd recommend having individual emails, and then filtering all of the email into a folder within your own email, and that way when you do reply, that way you can reply to the emails directly within your email client. Whereas if you're using a digest email, it's generally frowned upon to reply from the digest email, because then
sorry, what's a digest email?
Okay, so what a digest email is, the mailing software waits for a whole day or a whole week.
Oh, I see, right.
To send a bunch of a bunch of emails in a single message.
Yeah.
So you can subscribe to on the website, on the Google Ipswich website, you can choose to get a digest.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. I have sometimes I find that usually what happens is that my email address is a BT Open World at Yahoo, and usually the messages on the Google group come into my inbox, but sometimes they go into spam. But there's no rhyme or reason to which of those two they seem to go to, so far as I can tell.
So there's two options there. One is to set up a filter which will filter the message to go to a particular folder.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's enough in some software to counteract the spam filtering.
Right.
In other cases, it's just a case of you've got to train the spam filtering to deal with that.
I must say I find Google Mail better, but recognising real spam.
Yeah. Yeah, Google Mail is kind of seen as one of the
you
best.
You can keep a BT Open World, but set up a Google Mail account, right, and redirect it through. Is that right?
Yeah. What you can do is you can redirect all of your. Well, the other option is redirect all of the email from your BT address through to your Gmail and access it there. That's the other option.
Yeah, I noticed the Google Mail. I never get any crap emails with my German one. I get the stuff that I need to read ends up in the spam, whereas the rubbish is in my inbox.
Yeah.
Change the names on your boxes.
Yeah. The Cycle Ipswich Google group is fairly active. In the past year, I had a quick look at the stats. There's between 13 and 131 messages per month. So quite a big variance. There's some counsellors on the group who regularly and helpfully provide advice.
Those are always the longest posts I've.
Sometimes. Sometimes it's quite useful.
I know that belongs to the longest post.
I haven't read that one. I think if it's too long, I kind of don't read it.
Yeah. I think everyone here is on the Google group already.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'll leave this slide for anyone who's not here and skip through to the next slide. That's just some stats on graph showing which are they're publicly available if you go to the About link on the Google group. I'll have a quick mention of Google Docs. So you can use the Google account login. You can have multiple people live editing the same document. So you can have 3, 4, 5 people in different parts of the same document, which is quite useful.
So how because I know that I say we, not me, that's been used for putting together responses to planning consultations, hasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
I have no idea how to use Google Docs, I haven't got a clue.
Think of it a bit like a word processor. Right, so you also get an activity stream down the right hand side. So yeah, we've got a Google, I've got a folder which is shared with a few people, happy to expand that out, which contains things like the minutes of meetings and the meeting agendas and that sort of stuff.
So that's where you've been doing all the editing of the consultation responses.
Consultation
so
responses.
So at the moment I don't have access to that because you haven't given me permission, is that right?
That's right, yeah.
Right. Okay.
If you, the other thing is you've got the options to either have an explicit list of people anyone with the link, or having it publicly searchable. So you've got those kind of 3 levels of permissions for everything. So generally what I do is have an explicit list of people for the folder, and then for each meeting agenda and the minutes, make it available to anyone with the link. So that way you've kind of got the best of both.
Right.
Google Plus is kind of Google's attempt at social networking. It does integrate with some of the other products, things like YouTube and so on.
It's good if you want to post your helmet videos in.
Oh, what?
Helmet videos.
My helmet? Oh, right. Okay.
Helmet cams.
Yeah. Okay.
Facebook. How many people here know what Facebook is?
I'm very confused by Facebook. I use it a lot because I've got 2 pages and a private one, but I'm never sure what I'm allowed to do in terms of friend, like, share, when I'm using it as something, reference something else, and what the difference is between, as a group you belong to, a page that you like. For example, I like the slow bike movement. I thought I joined it as a group.
Yeah.
But it isn't a group. I've just liked it, apparently. Some of them you have to ask to join, don't you? It's a closed group, and some of them you just join and you can straight away, instantly.
Yeah. So that'll be the difference between the permissions of the group. So you can have a public group where you need. So you can have a public group where you need permission to post, but then you can have private groups where you can find information about the group publicly, but you then need permission to join it and to be able to post.
Right.
So that way you can kind of keep the people that you don't want out.
So is that the same as a page that you manage?
No. So a page is generally used by organisations to kind of push out information.
Right.
Rather than a group, which is kind of more for chit chat within a particular local group.
I am apparently on Facebook because my wife told me I had to be, so that I could spy on my children, but I have absolutely no idea whatsoever how to use it or what it's for. It leaves me cold, Facebook.
Okay.
Into it.
Spying on your children?
Well, she wanted me to friend them or something, so that I would be able to see what they were doing or something. I don't know.
Okay, that's why I was friended.
Seeing as I don't know how to use it, not really very.
I wouldn't work very well. I'm not friends with, although they seem to be friends with me.
No, with
what, your children.
No. It needs to be to be friends with someone, you both have to accept the friend request.
Okay.
You can follow someone without being the friend, which is quite often what happens with celebrities.
Right.
So celebrities will have a lot of followers, but a relatively low number of friends, and that's kind of what the.
Followers don't need to be neutral. So if people
That's right,
follow me without me knowing that.
That's right, yeah. But they will only see stuff which you have given them permission to see.
Yes.
Because each item which you post has a permission level set on it.
Okay.
So you can set it to public, you can set it to friends. Friends of friends used to be a lot more prevalent than it is just now. And you've also got kind of other groups of people. So, for example, I've got the university I went to, or an area which is quite common, so London. So you can go away and group your friends by where they live. There's one which it automatically does. And then you can go away and say, okay, this, what I'm writing here is only visible to that group of people.
Yeah.
So in terms of your kids. Your kids could then just go away and post a load of stuff and say, and not include their parents.
Yeah.
So then you don't then see it. So therefore,
I don't see it anyway because I haven't got a clue how to use it. Probably best, isn't it? Really.
So, yeah.
What's the advantage of so you've got, is that yours? You've got London.
Yeah. I don't use those.
Do you tag friends as London, or does Facebook know that they're London?
I believe Facebook automatically knows that they're London because you can so one of the things that you can enter in is that some personal information. You choose how much you want to put in. Things like your school, your university, where you work, where you live, all that sort of stuff. And then you've got kind of relationships, so you can go in and say, this person who's my friend also happens to be my mother, or my wife, or my brother, or my cousin, or my aunt. So you've got all that kind of relationship stuff there. So yeah. But yeah, it's essentially a way of sharing text, links, photos, events, etc. with other people. And that's essentially all Facebook is. It's a way of sharing that with a group of people. And they do try and push, Facebook, it's worth going through the permissions and privacy stuff within Facebook, just to see what settings are there, and going away and setting them appropriately for what you're. I'm not going to say go away and use these settings. Take a look at what settings are there and choose what the ones which you feel is appropriate for you.
I just put the absolute basics on Facebook, and people know hardly more than where I studied, where I work, and who I'm married to. Everything else is none of anybody's business. Especially now my boss has friended me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know in some circles it's, while you're working with someone you don't Facebook friend them, but you follow them on Twitter or something. But once you've stopped working with them, you can then go and friend them,
Right, okay.
I know some circles do it in that way, but if you get on well with someone then that you work with, then it's perfectly fine to do so. So yeah. Facebook groups, they're a way of kind of sharing information. They tend to be groups tend to be more for a bottoms up kind of approach, whereas Facebook pages are probably more of a top down approach in terms of pushing out. They're kind of used. This is the London Cycling Campaign page, for example, which is kind of aimed at pushing out content. And then people can sit there and comment on stuff, like it, share it out onto their timeline, or share it out into their groups. So if you see,
they can do that with the page, though, can't they? They can do that with the Ipswich one as well. They can like it, share it.
Yeah, you can like it, share. It's the same with any of the posts. Based on the permissions, you can then go and like, share, and so on.
So does Cycle Ipswich have a Facebook page?
We don't have a Facebook page. We have a Facebook group.
Okay. Right.
Alex chose that. He started that, didn't he?
It was there before I came along.
Yeah. I think he started that.
Yeah. I think for where we are as an organisation, I think a group is probably more appropriate than a page.
Yeah. A page needs a bit more organisation and someone effectively running it.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Anna's article.
Yeah.
With Ben and Velma.
Yeah. We've then got Facebook events. You can add them to a group, which is what I've done for the event here tonight, and that way people can know about it. They can go away and say that they're coming, or they're maybe coming, or they're not coming. You can then kind of share it out onto your and invite other people out specifically, so then they can, if they forget about it, they can come, or they, so then if they don't even know about it, they can then choose to come along to it.
So what's the importance of? Is it important to like something just for the sake of it, if it's somebody you want to connect with, or is it important to just like it if you actually like the content?
I think it's, if it's a Facebook page and you want to you want to receive updates about it, then yes, liking it is important.
I see that you like Neil Winchip's comment.
So if you want to like a comment or something, the way I look at it is
comment his actual posting on our page.
Yeah. Oh, so okay. So the posting within the Google group.
Yeah.
So in that particular case, it was a acknowledgement. I've seen it, and that's one way of using a like, isn't it? Or it's I like what you're saying there. It's good. So yeah, that's another way of. For Facebook, there's a bunch of privacy settings. If you go into the settings there and go to the privacy tab, then you can get access to them, have a look through them. There's fairly good explanations in there as to what each of them mean. So you've then got the privacy shortcuts, which kind of is a more simplified version of the previous screen. So, any more questions on Facebook before we go to Twitter?
Is there any importance regarding campaigning generally and getting the message out there? How you have the privacy settings? Should you just go as wide as possible?
Having it public so it can go as wide as possible is probably the best thing.
Yeah.
And quite often for the type of stuff that you're doing it for campaigning purposes, it's not an issue with what you're saying having it public.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the kind of if you're sitting there taking photos of your grandkids, you probably only want your friends or only your family to see that, and that's where the privacy settings come in and quite useful. Whereas if you're talking about this sort of campaigning, you probably do want it public, and the Cyclist Switch Facebook group is public, so
right.
So anyone who's got a Facebook account can see the content that's in there. They need to join it before they can post.
So can I put everyone except my family? Because they must get fed up with all my campaign nonsense that goes out the whole time about rainforests and biking.
I'm not sure if you can, but if you go on to the so on here where it says the public, if you go to custom, you should then be able to
why does yours say who should when mine says who can?
Facebook are always pushing out slight variations of their interface, so
okay.
I wouldn't worry about that one.
Oh, custom, I've got it. Yeah, okay.
So if you look in there, you'll be able to.
Okay, don't share this with. Yeah, okay. So I could put my family in there.
Yeah.
So I've got a group called family. I send photos. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's. But if you're a parent who's wanting to look after their kids, and the kids could just go away and say, "Not my parents."
Right.
So.
So that's what I'm after. Yeah.
So that is something.
Instagram doesn't have that functionality, does it?
I believe Instagram is anyone or private. I think.
Yes, that's
I've not.
Yeah, that's right.
I think it's more. I think it's similar to Twitter, which I'll just come on to.
Okay.
So Twitter is short 140 character messages. Links are seen as special content.
160 characters in German.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that because we have longer words?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, because in Germany, the rules are different. You can have 160 characters in German.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was something. I said, wow, I know something.
He doesn't. German account and talk English.
We probably. I mean, I can understand it because we've got much longer words.
Yeah. I think the theory was that actually Germans couldn't say anything on Twitter with 140 characters. You couldn't get a verb finished.
That's not what we call our Supreme Court. We call Bundesverfassungsgericht, which is a
that's too long. Isn't it?
massive.
That is probably about 140.
All of our illegal sort of words are extremely long.
Yeah.
And you sometimes have to breathe in between to pronounce one.
Yeah.
So you can follow other people, organisations. Cycle Ipswich have a Twitter account, which I am primarily the person that runs it. I'm quite willing to give out the password for other people.
Can I just ask a question about this? I actually find Twitter mind-boggling because you post something, or you read something, and you turn your back, and then you've got 60 new messages to read when you turn back again.
Yeah.
So
depends how many people you follow, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Does it?
Yeah. So it'll be. So how many messages you have appearing within a minute will depend on how many messages the people that you follow have put out or have retweeted. So
I follow 88 people.
Yeah. So you within half an hour, they could quite easily retweet or push out 50 messages.
But how can you cope when you've got like 2,000 people you follow?
I've got about 500 or 600 or something like that.
You got a lot anyway.
700 or something, yeah. But
I follow 37.
So the way I look at it is, it's a stream of information. Don't sit there and try and read every single message.
No, but doesn't it by default mean that anything you put out there will just get lost, and you're wasting your time with it?
Could you not say the same thing of Facebook though?
So there's a kind of a key difference between Facebook and Twitter in this. With Twitter, it will give you everything that everyone says. Facebook, on the other hand, has a whole series of algorithms that says, oh, you sit there and talk to this person a lot, so I'm going to show you you interact with this person, the messages that the person gives out a lot, so I'm going to show you these ones. This other person, you never talk to this person, so there's no point in showing you any of the posts that they do. But if you go to their profile, you'll see them. And so with Facebook, it will kind of give you content which you're likely to want to see. Whereas on the other hand, Twitter, it just gives you everything in a fire hose.
On me.
And it's up to you to kind of manage that and skim read it. So there is one feature which I think I've included here later on, which is lists, which might help with filtering. I'll come on to that.
Okay, yeah, I've seen that list feature thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to add this person to your list or something?
Yeah. I'll come on to that later. But yeah, I find Twitter is much more useful than Facebook in a lot of cases in terms of finding out tidbits of information and so on.
I find the thing I don't like about it is that you then have to, if there's a photo attached and it's not just the text, or a website, no, obviously with a website you have to do it on Facebook as well, but you don't see the picture straight away, you have to go to Pix Twitter or whatever it's called.
That will depend on the thing that the client that you're using, because some clients will only give you the URL.
Pictures, look.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so some clients will only give you the URL, some will show it in line, and it will depend on the website that they're using to link to host that image. So
yeah.
We'll come on to photos a little bit later down the line. Probably first up, I'm going to talk a little bit about replying to things. So you've got the reply button, and what that does is it will embed a little bit of meta information into the tweet that you're sending to say this message is a response to this other one, which means that you can reply to something but not have the person's name at the beginning of the message. There can be valid cases for wanting to do that, and it will still be within a thread.
Still be within the thread?
Within a conversation view. I'll come on to that in a second. But generally speaking, when you reply to things, you'll have the person's name, so the @ with their Twitter handle, at the start of the message. You then, say, oh, that was an excellent video, or whatever you want to say, or continue the conversation. Now, if a message that goes out starts with an ad, so or a person, a valid person's Twitter handle, only the people that receive the people that will see that tweet within their main timeline will be people who follow you and the first mentioned person within that tweet.
Right. Only,
yes.
So it's not getting out there publicly?
It won't get out there publicly to everyone else on your account who follow you. Everyone else who follows you.
Hang on, I thought you said it would be seen by everybody who follows me plus everybody who follows that other person.
Yeah, so it'll see, so it's the two people, so if you are replying to a tweet that Andrea had sent,
yes,
and I follow Andrea and I follow you,
yes,
then I would see it in my main timeline.
Right.
If I only follow you but I don't follow Andrea,
you won't see it.
Oh, okay. So they have to follow both.
That's
people.
right.
Unless you add a dot, is that the next one?
Unless you add a dot, or you rework. So some people don't like using putting the dot in the beginning.
Where do you put the dot? At the beginning?
As the first character.
Oh, okay.
So some people don't like that kind of syntax, and they prefer that you rework the sentence such that the person's name is worked into the sentence further down. So you can maybe put a hi.
So in that example on there, if you put "That's an excellent video" at Bruce McVeigh at Street Films, then everyone would see it.
That's right.
Hang on. So how do you get past the barrier, which seems to be the numbers of people that follow you and the numbers of people that follow the person you're messaging? How do you get out there publicly to every other person?
So see that example there on the bottom there?
Yeah.
Where he's replied and it says at Bruce McVeigh at Street Films, that's an excellent video. If instead he put that's an excellent video at Bruce McVeigh at Street Films, so put it the other way around, then everyone would see it.
That's right.
Anybody on the planet who's got Twitter?
No, anyone that's following me would then see it. As the person that's
so the only way you can look at everything that's on the web is by use to Discover, is it, or not?
Discover is the Discover tab uses information. So that's kind of like a Facebook algorithm, in that it looks at things that you tend to look at, or people that you follow, and things that people are tending. So if there's a tweet which is getting interacted with quite a lot,
right,
it will appear there.
Right. And that is simply a function of the fact there is so much information out there that it has to have some meaning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think. How do I boost the number of followers I've got?
Tweet interesting information. Tweet more.
I knew that wouldn't be easy.
Don't be boring, Kevin!
So yeah, it's essentially you've got to.
But you want to try and get people retweeting your stuff, don't you?
That's
so. For example, a couple of weeks ago, I went out for a bike ride, took a nice photo on my charge cooker, and I tweeted it, and I mentioned the charge bikes.
I saw that,
and they retweeted it. So then it gets from my 20 followers to their 8,000. I haven't had any more followers as a result, unsurprisingly. But that's how you do it, isn't it?
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So generally, the way you'll find a lot of people who are retweeting things, and if you find you'll often get patterns. So you'll often get the same people appearing as having their tweets retweeted because they regularly give good content. So that's obviously a sign. Oh, they're always saying this interesting stuff. Maybe I should follow them.
Right.
So that's why getting your stuff, saying interesting things that gets your stuff retweeted. So having high quality content is kind of,
what is high quality content? Because in reality, hasn't everything that could be said about cycle infrastructure already been said?
No. A lot of it has probably been said, yeah, but quite often, well, the other one is mentioning people, so not mentioning people, but getting involved in conversations. So when you see someone talking about something, which you've got something useful to add to that conversation, responding to that.
Yeah, because I responded to that Pedal on Parliament post, or Pedal Parity I think it was, which had got the 2 photos, one of the Pedal on Parliament march and one of the cyclists for pain in the arse march, I think it was, or something like that, or a UKIP march or something, I don't know. And I posted something saying, I replied to Pedal on Parity, Pedal Parity saying, so what is the one on the right, because I didn't even know what it was about, and he told me, and I said, okay, so it's the local rag letter writers that have come out in force. There are all 40 of them, compared to the 400 or 4,000 that were at the other march. And from that I got 2 followers, I think.
That's quite often the way that you end up getting followers, I'll probably cover some more of this kind of content a bit further on in the presentation.
Okay, sorry.
So when you click on a tweet, you can view the conversation. And you'll see all of the replies kind of linked together. I know there's a couple of apps where you'll only see one level of reply in each direction. You won't see the full thread. So this kind of uses the replies, and it can be quite useful. So if someone can respond to a tweet which you wrote, say, a week ago, and you can sometimes go, what are you talking about? And then go look at the conversation view, and suddenly it goes, okay, that's what you're responding to. Okay, now I understand.
Okay. Now, I've got a question then, because I can post on Cycle Ipswich Twitter if I know, well, I do know what the password and stuff is, because you gave it to me, but I always tend to stay logged in as whatever I am, the bicycle doctor. Because I don't want to have to re-log in. There isn't any way that you can stay logged in as one but post on 2?
On the Twitter website itself, no.
Right.
It only supports the login of one user at a time. If you use another application or another website such as TweetDeck or some other Twitter apps.
What do you use?
On the Mac, I use the Twitter's own official app, and I use.
So do you log out when you post to Sean McDonald? Do you log out?
No, so I'm logged in under 3-4 different accounts at the same time.
But how do you know which one you're going to post as?
Because it's got account management.
Where is the account management then? I can't see that. Well, I don't know. I probably could find it if I looked. I don't know what it is.
Come
on. Right, so here is the official Twitter app for the Mac.
Okay.
And you'll see here how you've got my face. So that's my account. Come on.
I think you need to change that photo again, as it's an old one.
Yeah.
So what are we looking at here?
This is the Mac Twitter app.
Well, my PC, whatever you call it, app doesn't look anything like that.
Wi-Fi's dropping again.
Discover. I wonder if I'm profile and settings. I wonder if it's in the lists, help.
Yeah, so you should have an accounts list.
Yeah, here we go. Account, username, the bicycle doctor, blah blah. Yeah. But it's only got one box.
So you should have a plus somewhere. So if I go into the preferences, I've got accounts, and I've got a whole series of different accounts, and I can hit plus.
Oh, okay.
Which then allows me to log in under multiple So I'm logged in. There's several different accounts here.
Right.
So yeah, just by using there are several apps out there. It's a case of using, looking for your operating system.
TweetDeck.
TweetDeck is one.
Does that mean the fact that it comes to mind means it's a good one? Does it? Does the fact that comes to mind?
It's a fairly common one. What's the other one? There's a few others. I use TweetBot, but I think that's another Mac only one. So
in reality, though, going back to content, if you want to ask another question, if Cycle Ipswich wants to be effective, wants to communicate, who are we aiming to communicate with and why?
So energising kind of other people who are like us, who want to campaign for better cycle infrastructure. That's it within Ipswich. That's one group of people. Another group of people would be other cycle campaign groups. So what are these campaign groups doing? How can we, are they doing anything interesting that we could...
That's why I've sent you that post from William.
Yeah, that's see now. I've not read it yet, so I've been concentrating on this presentation. So yeah, other cycling organisations pushing out what we're doing, so then people can go, oh, they're doing interesting stuff. Communicating with the council is another one.
Yeah.
So
Politicians.
Politicians. This.
Is that why you follow politicians?
That's one of the reasons. Yeah. I don't necessarily support their views, but it's interesting to know what it is that they're doing, what their views are. Maybe I can persuade them otherwise that changing their view is appropriate. But even just being aware of what they're doing can be quite useful.
Right.
So you've got conversations. Mentions are very similar to replies. This is an example of Jeremy Mitchell, who was a reporter from the Ipswich Star that was here, who had written the report in the Ipswich Star.
Right.
So that's the same as a retweet, is it? Mention?
No.
Okay.
No. So what she done was, written the title of the article that she written, put a link to it, and then mentioned us. That way we were aware of the fact that the Cycle Ipswich account was then aware of the fact that she'd written that tweet.
Anybody who follows Ipswich Star would see that, is that what it's...
No, anyone who follows Gemma would see that, because it was Gemma that wrote that particular one. Had it been the Ipswich Star who had posted it, anyone who follows the Ipswich Star would have seen it.
Yeah.
So that's another way of getting more followers, is by having other people mentioning you.
Right.
So if you're doing something...
The mention is the square one, the second one...
No. The mention is this bit here.
Oh right, okay, yeah, I understand, yeah, right.
That's the mention.
But that second one there is retweet, isn't it?
So what I done after that came in was I clicked the retweet button, which I'll come on to in a moment, and then it comes up and tells you who it is that's retweeted it and how many retweets there's been.
Yeah.
And what that does is everyone that follows Cycle Ipswich then sees this tweet.
Right.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to talk about retweets first. So retweets is essentially, you see something that someone has said interesting. That's interesting. You think that your followers will be interested in that as well. and so therefore you retweet it. I know there are quite a few people, particularly journalists and so on, who will put within their Twitter profile, retweet does not mean endorsement or support.
Yeah, I see that.
And that's just essentially just because they find that particular content interesting or it's an interesting view, you don't necessarily need to support that view.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily support the view, you said?
Yeah, you don't need to support the view of the person that you're retweeting, of whatever it is that they've written.
If someone writes something absolutely outrageous,
sometimes people will retweet that to highlight how outrageous it is.
Yeah.
It's all too subtle for me.
Okay, so
it's funny because I find Twitter. I suppose because I've used it a bit for a while, I find it easier to understand than Facebook.
Yeah.
I suppose
same here.
What
you're used to.
And what you.
So I think Twitter is a little bit simpler than Facebook, even though I've written more about it in this presentation. Hashtags. So it's essentially a way of being able to have it's almost like having a impromptu group. So then all the content is grouped together
on a particular
topic. On a particular topic. So one example here is the Space for Cycling hashtag. So there's a lot of people who are it has been quite active for the past a couple of years now, I think.
So when they say something is trending, they mean that there's a lot of activity on
there's a lot of activity on that phrase, yes. So that's what the trending is all about, is a lot of activity. So the hashtag is quite used at conferences or TV shows as a way of participating within that conference or TV show, or with a conference, being able to get the information from that conference going out to a wider audience. Or even, so some people will live tweet the presentations that are going on, and that way people who can't get there can find out what's happening. But also you then get all sorts of little back channel conversations happening, which can often then mean that you end up meeting up with someone else in person at the conference. Oh, you're talking about that? Oh, can we have a little chat? So it can be quite useful in that way as well.
So does a hashtag have to be as everybody else is writing the hashtag?
Yeah, so sometimes what you find is people end up doing a slight variation. So whether so for example, I'll take a conference name or it's whether or not you use conference name and the conference year plus the year, and that can mean that you've then got to search for 2 different hashtags or 3 different hashtags. I know sometimes you then get typos within, like Space for Cycling, where someone's missed out a letter or something. Now with the auto-completion, so when you start typing a hashtag, it will come up with some suggestions for you. And if you then accidentally tap the typo, it'll then explode. This particular typo will then become more common.
Is it a way of reaching more people with the message?
It is, yeah. Yeah, it will reach more people because some people will see, oh, there's something interesting in that hashtag, or they'll use a saved search.
But do they need to have searched for you after you've made that post with that hashtag?
Yes.
Or can it be if they've searched in the past that will go to them?
The former. Yeah, okay. So they've got to be actively searching for. Yeah. Now you can do saved searches.
Saved searches.
So things like TweetDeck have this notion of kind of columns. So you go away and you have a column. So you could, for example, have Space for Cycling, or some people have a set of keywords for people who are tweeting while driving. Various things like that to try and find out these people, and They just got a column sitting there, so then you can see what it is people are talking about on that particular search. And if any tweet that matches that search term appears, it will appear within that.
So it's like saying, I'm interested in these subjects, please bring me all the tweets as and when.
Okay. There's a whole series of stuff that you can do.
How do you click the hashtag? Where will we find it?
So within the tweet, it'll look blue, so you can tap it or click it.
Okay. And then if you look for something particular, for example, hashtag like Ipswich, so I'll put that into the search. So if you see a tweet with the space for cycling hashtag, you can just click it and it'll automatically go to the search screen. Like anything about bloody cyclists.
Yeah, bloody cyclists. Yeah, this came out of the MOA who was tweeting while not driving. While driving and not paying attention. And
she was that one up in Norfolk.
Yeah, and almost killing a cycle. So you can click it, it'll go to the search, or you can search for it directly. It's multiple.
So when you're searching for hashtag, there's a search function.
Yeah.
Do you put hashtag before whatever it is you're searching for? You do.
That's why it says discover. Hashtag discover in my title bar.
So retweets by prominent accounts. One retweet about a prominent account can cause a significant number of further retweets or discussion or various other things to favourites, further retweets, that sort of thing to happen. I went and done a tweet about having a problem making profiteroles at the weekend, and there was about 15 favourites that happened out of it. Didn't get any new followers, but it got out to quite a significant number of people who had seen it, and not just seen it, but also thought it was interesting enough that they would maybe want to go back and see it again, hence why they favourited it. So
I guess my concern would be knowing how to do all this stuff. How effective is it in comparison to if we were running regular events in communicating our message, or if we were to spend more time on consultations, because we've all got limited amounts of time. Can we really make social networking as effective as a tool as running rides, say, and having a chat in a pub with 5 new people if you manage to get out there, and would that go viral eventually and would have really big rides? And
I think they both go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So I think you need to do an element of both of them.
Yeah.
So it's a case of which audience are you going to get a hold of. So I know, for example, some groups they struggle to get new people in, and that's because they're always talking to people within the same circle.
The same group, yeah.
Whereas if you're putting stuff out onto things like Twitter or Facebook or whatever, the probability of someone else suddenly stumbling upon that account is slowly increasing. The more followers you have and the more things that you're putting out that get retweeted, the more likely you are to get people that find you.
So,
but I'm not going to say Twitter is the magic pill.
No.
And yes, you do need to sit there and spend time being good at writing responses to consultations. You need to be good at talking to council officials and going out there and taking them on bike rides or going out onto the street and explaining the problems. But at the same time, it's useful to find out what other cycling organisations are doing. What is the latest in cycle infrastructure? What are other councils doing? Oh, wait a minute, Brighton have gone away and put in the segregated cycle track. London are putting in are starting construction in the next month for the segregated cycle tracks in Blackfriars Bridge, which there's been a whole series of protests for. Now, if you know that information, you can then go to your local council officials and say, hey, are you aware that this stuff's happening over here? Can we get something like that, please?
Yeah. So if I
and so it's a case of it's kind of using it to find out information, but not just
you're not going to change the world.
You're not going to change the world just by using it.
But if I put a tweet out there, say, whatever, doesn't matter about the content, but I also put at the end, even though they don't follow me, Suffolk County Council, I know I do Suffolk spokesperson.
Yeah.
If I put it broader to Suffolk County Council or Ipswich Borough Council, would that do any good? Would somebody within the organisation pick that up?
So someone in that organisation will likely pick it up. Whether or not they act on it is another matter. I know some of the social media teams out there, Version Trains, Greater Anglia and so on, they do have, they're very much on the ball, nationwide, Building Society, they've got a 24-hour team who will sit there and respond to tweets constantly, or within certain hours. So Greater Anglia is something like 7 AM or until 8 or 10 PM or something. And then if there's major disruption, I've seen them come online and later into the evening to provide people support that they need and push out information so then passengers know what's happening.
Yeah, and I think, I work with quite a few trainee solicitors in our place, so they're in their sort of early mid-20s, and they do use Twitter as a means of communicating. So that example that you gave there, one of my trainees who I had in my office last year, she commutes every day from Brentwood, and she would regularly moan at the rail company via tweets, and they would respond to her. So that was how she was communicating with them. And I think, for me, the idea that I would ever look to have my first engagement with an organisation via Twitter is probably fairly alien, but for younger people in particular, I think it's actually quite common.
It's not the first time. For me, I found it quite useful. I'm on a train. I notice there's a problem with the toilet or something. Go away and tweet Greater Anglia. Hey, there's a problem on this vehicle or this carriage. This is what the problem is. And they get back and say, oh, thanks for letting us know, we'll pass it on to the engineering teams. And that, they're constantly pushing information to other parts of the organisation. I know within Suffolk County Council they're doing it. Ipswich Borough Council, they will, they went and seen one of the blog posts I wrote through obviously one of the I think it might be one of the Google alerts that they've used. That they came across and went, actually what you've wrote isn't quite right, and kind of explained it, and I went and said, okay, I'll, can I put a quote on the bottom of the blog post? And they're, okay, we'll sort it out. So there are organisations out there who will respond to stuff. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't see it, or sometimes it's not necessarily important enough to respond until several other people deal with it. So it depends on the organisation and exactly what it is as to whether or not responding to stuff is important. So and if the other one is if you get suddenly get 50 people tweeting you saying, hey, what are you doing about this? Why is this happening? You're going to sit there and respond. So it's about taking things into proportion. So. I'm going to try and rattle through some of the next couple of slides. Quoted tweets. There are kind of a bit of a historical hangover from, well, there's across a few things. One is a bit of a historical hangover from the old days, from when there wasn't retweet functionality as such, and you wanted to share something that someone said with your followers, and that's where the retweet functionality actually came from. It was one of these organic things that came up. Loads of people were doing this retweet and then something, so Twitter actually got away and implemented proper retweet functionality. But sometimes, as in this example, someone has tweeted something, but you want to add some bit of expression in there, so there's a bit of a yay put in front of it before putting it out to your followers. So, HT, it stands for hat tip, or heard through. It was kind of saying, I found out about this via someone else, but you're not necessarily you want to maybe write, rather than just retweeting that person, you want to highlight what it is that they've said in a different way, which is written a bit better for your followers. Or maybe maybe they've written a link to an article, but the way that they've written it doesn't highlight a particular point that you want to make, that you think the article makes, which, and so you might say, via someone or HT. And it kind of falls into the kind of community good practice of attributing where you found out information from.
Yeah, fair enough.
And it's another way of kind of potentially gaining more followers as well, because you're, if someone like Carlton Reid is saying, in this case, he's quite big, he's got a large follower base. So by doing that, Dave Walker might get a few extra followers if they think what he's writing is good.
Hang on. Who sent that to who?
Okay, so in this case, Dave Walker wrote this. Carlton Reid then seen that. Then he wanted to write this in a slightly different way. So he wrote that in a different way with and then said HT, Dave Walker wrote his message.
Right.
But he'd done that actually as a reply, which meant that it becomes a conversation thread as well. So you can kind of combine quotey tweets with replies.
Carlton Reid's tweet, is that addressed to the public?
That goes out to the public, yeah. Okay. So everyone that follows Carlton Reid will see that in their timeline.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't, I'm not following him yet, so I wouldn't say it.
You wouldn't say it, no. Unless you were to specifically go to his profile or someone was to retweet it. Favourites is a way of kind of acknowledging that something that someone has said, rather than having to reply to them. And having a way of being able to go back to interesting tweets. It's worth noting that all the tweets that you've favourited are available through your profile. So I can go to your profile and see all the tweets that you have favourited.
Okay.
Sharing images, relatively easy to do with, particularly with some of the apps which are available. A lot of people within the kind of cycle and campaigning stuff are using it for showing images of good and bad cycle infrastructure. Some of the people who are the engineers, they go away and say, oh, I've just gone away and implemented this, I've just gone and built this infrastructure. And you sometimes get a bit of a conversation happening about some of the thinking behind why they were implementing it that way. This is an example where someone's taken a screenshot of from Google Earth and then gone away and annotated it with some arrows.
How do they do that?
Using a bit of software, image editing software.
So they'll do that before they tweet it?
Yeah, they would do it before they tweet. So they would use an application like Skitch or
Skitch.
It's a bit of software which is owned by Evernote.
Okay.
And it's quite good for.
Is it more cross-platform than Evernote then? Isn't Evernote limited to Apple?
No, Evernote's cross-platform.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Evernote's so I can do a note on my phone, and it'll synchronise to the Evernote service, and I can pick it up on the Mac or Windows or the web interface.
But why would you want to do a note on Evernote or Sketch when you can do it on Google Docs?
So I tend to do stuff on Sketch because it's got really good ways of sharing images. So it makes it really easy to annotate images and share images and take screenshots of the screen.
Okay.
So particularly taking screenshots of the screen is probably the main reason I use Sketch.
So if you install Sketch on your
Mac, yeah,
on your phone,
yeah, I know you can definitely do it on iOS. I don't know about Android.
Okay. What's iOS?
Apple phones and iPads.
Operating system.
Yeah.
Ah, I see. I'm not just.
So it's a kind of it's a bit soft. Things like my meter readings, I put them into for the electric. I put them into Evernote. It just happens to be the easiest way of doing it. So one of the nice things is Evernote tends to work a little bit better offline than Google Docs.
Offline,
yeah.
So if you haven't got connectivity, you can still use it.
Yeah, usually, yeah. You sometimes need to upgrade to the Pro version though to get full access on mobile though.
Right.
For offline.
Sean, there's a Google Keep as well, isn't it?
Google Keep. Oh, I think that'll be a variant of a note-taking, yeah. Yeah. There's loads of apps.
There's an article about Google Keep versus Evernote.
Oh, probably there is. Anyway, I think I should rattle through this since I'm.
It's getting a bit late now.
It's getting a bit late.
3 minutes, Sean.
So you've got saved searches. So if you're interested in a particular topic, you can kind of follow that topic and keep on top of things. As I've said previously, there's a whole series of different applications for different operating systems. Try them out, see which one works for you. They've got slightly different features, and sometimes the interface just works a bit better for the way that you're using it. So it is worth looking out for different Twitter apps. Some of them are paid for. There is functionality to auto-tweet stuff from various blogging platforms, for example.
Hang on, tell me that again. There's functionality with auto-tweets.
Yeah, so if you post a blog post, you can get it to produce a tweet when you publish that blog post.
Automatic.
But Facebook has stopped doing that linking, but Twitter is still offering it.
I think it's a case of it depends on the blogging platform and setting it up. But yeah, there is some.
Okay, so blog.
I'm fairly. I'll get back to you on that one.
No, that's all right. I can look at blog post. I use blog post, don't I?
Blogger. Use Blogger.
I use Blogger. Okay, blog post to Twitter. I'll look that up. Yeah. Because I'm just basically trying to save time.
Yeah. There is an option for private Twitter accounts. They're not particularly useful for cycle campaigning though. Things like retweets are prevented. I'll leave you to read the slides when the slides come out. Location, you can optionally set a location of where you created the tweet. You need to enable it within your Twitter profile. It's up to you to think about the privacy concerns on that one. Though even if you don't put a location on, some of the data mining can happen because you've put a place name within text of the tweet. So, but sometimes you can get kind of useful analysis like what's happening, what's most popular in a particular region and so on. So, a couple of slides on some people that might be interesting to follow. You know, Suffolk spokespeople from Suffolk County Council, Cycling Embassy of Great Britain, who kind of push a lot more of the more advanced kind of, you know, the higher quality cycle infrastructure. London Cycling Campaign. Since, you know, there's a lot of interesting stuff happening in London because of the you know, stuff with TfL. Carlton Reeds, quite a big author.
50,000 tweets.
Does he do anything other than tweet all day? That's what I want to know.
He does. He edits, you know, the bigbiz.com.
Yeah, I know that. I've spoken to him on the phone about it, you know, sometimes, but I look at the number of tweets he does in a day, you think, how the hell does he... And Rachel Aldred, she's pumping them out. I by mistake, I got this automatic thing, so it came up on my screen. I got a notification every time, just by mistake.
Oh yeah, you can get notified. There is an option to be notified when a particular person tweets.
That's it.
So yeah, you can.
That was really annoying because
just constantly being.
Sorry, it used to be that you'd be able to set it up so that you could get an SMS message. Oh. This was before push notifications became so common. So yeah, but you know, which was useful back in the day, but it's not so useful. You know, people have kind of moved away from SMS a bit now.
Can I ask you? You just mentioned push notifications. I sometimes try and follow people. Like I follow. Oh God, who's that guy who's all doing really good legal analyses of things? Easiest riding? Easy. Anyway, I don't know.
Riding a bike. Is it easiest riding a bike guy?
Riding a bike, is it?
Yeah, it could be.
Anyway, I think that I followed his blog through Feedburner, and then you've got other ones like Reddit and stuff. Do you have to know? Should you always use one, or is it? I mean, how do you know which one to use, and does it make any difference? Because because you read a blog post, you just present it at the bottom with a list of 3 or 4 different ones. How do you know which one to choose? Unless you go and look at each one and Google it before you choose, it just takes so much time.
I think it's. So, I think what you're talking about is feed readers, which is for reading RSS feeds.
Yeah.
It's a case of choosing a feed reader. So Google Reader got this. Was the main one up until I think it was about a year ago when Google disbanded it.
Right.
Yeah, about a year or two back. So Google disbanded Google Reader, and then suddenly there's a whole series of other feed readers that came up. But yeah, it's just a case of choose one. I use the old reader. I don't use it very often because Twitter seems to do a reasonably good job. But yeah, it's one of these ones. Try out a few, choose which one you like, and then use that.
How are you to know though? Because once I'm following him.
Yeah. I
get his blog posts, and he does one blog post a week or something. It's always very good.
Yeah.
So how do I know whether I've chosen the right one? You know.
It's one of these things of which bit of software you like the best. There's, as an analogy, which bicycle do you prefer? It's a bit like choosing a bicycle. So it's finding the right tool for that you like for reading feeds. Okay. That's essentially it. It's a bit like which bike do you like best? But just for software instead.
Yeah.
So yeah, just choose it. Pedestrian liberation.
Who does it again?
Pierre Miller.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Yes, Cyclescape's a toolkit to kind of track issues primarily relating to cycle infrastructure. You also have kind of group administrative discussions, so instead of talking about stuff on the Google group, talk about it within the administrative discussions, which have no location attached within Cyclescape is the other option. And also kind of one of the nice kind of features about Cyclescape is if there's someone out there who has this niggle or annoyance about some bit of cycle infrastructure, finds some route difficult, they can go away, enter it into Cyclescape, and then the local cycle campaigners can come in and go, oh, actually, I agree with you, or take it on as a campaign issue, without that person having to get involved with cycle campaigning properly. So it's basically a way of people within Ipswich, for example, giving us information and intelligence about, just simply because no one in the, everyone in the organisation can't sit there and know about every single problem within Ipswich in terms of cycle infrastructure. We can have a good stab, we can, kind of have a good idea about stuff, but we're not going to know everything. So it's one of the things I would like to kind of promote. So the basic kind of premise, you've got an issue which has a location attached. It's best to avoid large areas, so avoid putting an area around the town centre or across the whole of Ipswich. Just put a point in the rough centre of it and use that for the location, and that should be a good enough proxy. Unfortunately, areas just doesn't quite, big area issues hasn't been, that problem hasn't been quite solved yet in Cyclescape of how to deal with those. You can vote on issues, and the popular tab on the Cycle Ipswich group will, or within the issue list, will show up the issues which are the most popular. Everything can have a geographical area, which is a point, a line, or an area. So you've got the kind of the three things. Probably going for the more specific, the smallest kind of more specific thing is usually works best. And if it does mean, unfortunately, sometimes it does mean that if you've got two streets, Museum Street and Upper Brook Street, which have the same issue, but unfortunately they're quite far apart. Sometimes it's easier to just have two separate issues, one for each street, but then linking to the other one and saying, this street has also as the issue. You can also see a map of all the issues as well. So discussions is probably where most of where you'll spend most of your time. They will mostly be attached to an issue, and so therefore they'll have an inherent location which will be taken from the attached issue. You can set a priority to a particular discussion or thread. Discussion and thread is kind of used interchangeably within the interface. And that priority is for you personally, and then you can go away and see a prioritised list of discussions that you're interested in within the My Cyclescape tab. And so that's what that's useful for. You can go away and follow and unfollow any discussion thread, and that way, so if you find, maybe there's a discussion somewhere, but you're not particularly interested in it, you can go and unfollow it, and that way you won't get any notification emails about that thread. But if you see, something which is out with your area and it hasn't been automatically followed, but you're very interested in it, you can go away and follow it. Or if there's a discussion that started before you joined the group or before you signed up to Cyclescape and you find that interesting, it will, you can then go and follow it. There's kind of 4 levels of permissions on when you create a thread, create a new discussion. You've got public but without a group. You've got public within a group, so the discussion is attached to the group. Group only, and then group committee only, where the group committee are the only ones that are able to see. So you've kind of got those various levels of discussing things, and that way you can have things that aren't seen publicly.
Now, what's public within a group as opposed to group only?
Oh, there you go. I'm now joining Cycle Ipswich group.
Okay, I should get an email notification to say so. So group only means that you need to be a member of the group to be able to view it. Whereas public within the group means that anyone, anyone in the world can come along and see it.
But you've got public then, surely it's the same thing.
It's almost the same thing, except it's not attached to the group. It might be within the group area, but it's not attached to it. But also public within a group can be a discussion on an issue which is out with the group area.
Right.
So you've got that option as well. Yeah, it's a very subtle distinction. You probably, by default, you probably just want to use public within you and ensuring you attach it to the group. And that's
your numbers on here.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
And that's kind of the probably going to be the main one that you'll use, or it'll be group only for discussions that you don't want public. So, for example, if we want to have a discussion amongst ourselves without things like the councillors or council officials seeing it, we can use the group only or the committee only threads. Contributing to discussions, you've got a few different kind of contribution types. So text, photo, link, deadlines and dates. So you can go away, start a thread about a consultation, and you can go away and say, okay, this is due on, we need to have a response in by this date, and that way it'll come up on your deadline list.
But you have to be logged into Cyclescape to see that. You can't link that to your calendar.
No. Yeah, at the moment you've got to be logged into Cyclescape to see that. It's not. You can't. Yeah. Generally, you'll have one issue, one discussion, and kind of Cyclescape kind of promotes that idea that if you keep one thread, if you want to talk about something else, start a new thread somewhere else. The other thing that you can do is you can have several different discussions on the same issue, and those discussions can have different levels of permission. So you could have a public thread on an issue, but you could also have a group thread on the issue, which isn't publicly accessible.
So, sorry, can we just, is the group the people who are following it, or is it anybody who subscribes to Cycle Ipswich?
So the group is people who have been approved as members of being in the group. So you can't.
So I've just sent a membership request which is being considered at the moment.
Yeah, we're thinking about it.
Yes. So you need to be approved to join any Cyclescape group. Some groups will have a hard and fast requirement that you must be a member of the organisation, a paid up member of the organisation to be able to do so. Other groups, they will pretty much just accept anyone that seems reasonable within the local area. Each group has a kind of defined area. They'll generally mirror the cycle campaign groups. Any issue that's created within the group area will appear in a list of issues for that group. So you don't need to say this issue is part of this particular group, because the geographical software goes away and says, okay, this issue has been created, it's within Ipswich. There is a group called Cycle Ipswich which has an area of Ipswich, so it'll automatically say this issue is within this group's area.
So we'd get a notification of it, even though it wasn't posted by a member?
That's right, yeah.
Crikey.
And going back to the beginning, that means that you can have people who aren't interested in campaigning signing up to Cyclescape, posting issues,
Why would they post issues if they weren't interested in campaigning?
So they have enough interest to have this niggle about this bit of cycle infrastructure.
Why would they use it rather than Twitter?
They don't use it if they knew it was there, wouldn't they?
So the problem with Twitter is it's almost as though you're ranting about something.
Right.
Whereas this, you can start a constructive discussion, which will then be picked up by cycle campaigners in Ipswich, i.e. us, who can then take that bit of intelligence, that bit of information forward to kind of categorise it and work it into some form of proposal for council officials to go and implement. So that's kind of where it comes from. So so Fix My Street, for example, if there's a pothole, you want that sent directly to the council. If, however, it's some bit of infrastructure that you want changed, is not something that you would necessarily send straight to the council, because it's not a maintenance issue as such. It's something which needs to be campaigned on, or put together in a way that to try and get the council to make that change.
Okay.
Now, what you should do is have very specific issues. So rather than having an issue for the whole route, it tends, although in some cases it can be useful to have an issue across the whole route, but generally that tends not to work so well. So if there's a consultation along the whole route, that's fine. But in this particular kind of instance, what you want to try and do is home in on, is there a particular junction which you find difficult? Is there a stretch of road which you find difficult? And kind of answer that sort of question. And that way it'll be much easier to work with on the map, and in terms of actually coming up with proposals. It's much easier to come up for a proposal for a small section. And then once you've got all these proposals for the small sections, you can then build it into a much bigger chunk of work to then go ahead with a much bigger funding bid, for example.
So we ought to really have some kind of standing committee that reviews what's being posted on here and formulates, because this is all well and good as a means for us as a group to collate information about what is concerning people who are riding around the area, but if no one at the council level looks at it,
there's no use.
No use.
Yeah, we need to go and bundle them together and say this is what we think, and this is where we get the evidence from. This is how many votes these issues have got. This is so we believe they're popular issues, or that there's this much discussion by So I know I think it's Camden. Cycle Campaign, what they do for things, they find out how many messages were sent for a particular, in terms of a particular discussion, and how many unique people were posting about that particular issue. So, and they give that information to the council as well, because then from that they can go away and, is it just one person that's posting,
right,
or is it a whole series of different people posting?
So is it worth, whenever we put out a new issue, that we tweet to Suffolk spokespeople, mentioning Cyclescape, giving them a link to the issue, so they know that it's there? And if we did that enough, they'd get the picture that we were putting a lot of information up on the Cyclescape.
I would possibly, rather than putting it when we initially put rather than tweeting them when we initially put it out there.
Once it's got a lot of comments.
I would wait until the comments have kind of formulated up a kind of consensus of what we want to happen. I think that's probably a better point. But even just tweeting about it, because Suffolk spokespeople do follow us, they are picking up on that kind of information. So they are picking up on things like the fact that we've done the manifesto and so on without us even necessarily mentioning it to them directly. So just tweeting about it will be enough in that sort of case. But tweeting about it might get someone else to go, oh, actually, that's and come up with some comments about it, and actually write some comments within the thread. So I've got about 3 more slides left, so let's see if we can rattle through them. Group profile. There's a link there which you've probably all seen.
Yeah, brilliant.
You need to request membership.
Mine hasn't been processed yet. I've noticed that.
Sorry, I'm in the middle of the presentation. I'll do it as soon as
We know if we carry on like this, mate.
You then have your user profile. I know some cycling groups would prefer people to use their real name, so then they know who you really are. But it's, that's up to you. You can have a nickname as well.
What about your real name, Sean?
I do. You can you can put a little bit of information in the about section just to say this is who I am, and it kind of puts a bit of credibility onto what you're saying. If you put a bit of information there,
right,
and it lists the groups that you're a member of, and if you've got a website, you can enter that in as well and highlight that. And it also lists threads that you've contributed to recently as well. Notifications. This is probably one of the kind of key points about Cyclescape, is you can get emailed about the things that the things that are happening. You've got a choice to be included in the administrative discussions. Go through those settings, take a look at them, and assign them appropriately. The defaults are usually reasonably okay, apart from possibly the group administrative discussions, which you probably want to enable. And finally, my locations, which is kind of one of the key things about Cyclescape. You can go away and set a series of locations that are of interest to you. So, for example, your route to work. A section of Ipswich, the National Cycle Network in the area which is of relevance to you. If you set up lines or areas for those, you can then get notified whenever there's an issue in that area or close to that line. And that's slightly, so then you can have things that you're interested in which are not within your group area.
Yeah.
This is kind of play around.
And you can have more than one location. So.
You can have several locations, yes.
Okay. Brilliant.
And you'll get email notifications. The other thing in terms of contributing to discussions, so you can't start a message thread from email. However, if you get an email notification, you can reply to that email notification from your email, and it will automatically be added to the message thread within the website, and then be emailed out to everyone as well. So it's you can either contribute from so once you start getting emails, you can continue contributing via email just in the same way that you can do with the Google group.
I think we need to have as a discussion point for the next meeting how we get Cyclescape out there as well as Cycle Ipswich, so we get more people contributing.
So one of the ideas that come up, Anna had mentioned about hosting a curry evening at some point. I said, well, set a date and we can get on with it. Where she would, where we would just all get around and enter stuff into Cyclescape and do it as a kind of a training exercise to some degree. So I'm quite happy to do an evening of sitting there with laptops and so on and entering information into Cyclescape. So all of the issues which were put, when we had the meeting at Friends Meeting House, all when we were writing stuff onto the maps, I've gone away and added all of the information that was written on those maps into Cyclescape. So both me and Andrew have done that.
That's why I've just been looking at the issues in
Ipswich.
And most of them are posted by the two of you.
Yeah, so a lot of them are supposed to be us, but that's why there's a big clump of them.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of issues in there already, and they just need to be discussed.
Yeah.
So it's about starting discussions about what we're going to do about those things.
So we need to be reviewing those ones, the historic ones as well as that.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how important are the tags in discussion issues?
So one of the nice things, so something I haven't talked about is the library. So you've got this kind of
Yeah, I was just looking at that.
yeah. So what you can do is if there's been some document released, so things like the London Cycling Design Standards, they can be uploaded to the library such that they're available. They can be tagged as something useful. And then if you tag a discussion with that same thing, that library item will come up on the right hand side of the page. So if you, things like junction or traffic camming and so on, so things that people have done before. But it's just a way of grouping discussions together essentially. So all of the ones which were added at that meeting on the maps, they've all got the same tag on them. So
they're all in the library, are they?
No, they're not in the library. No. Okay, so
they're on the location map thing.
So they're on the location map, but if you go into one of them, you'll find they've got a particular tag on them.
Cyclists meeting 2014.
That's right.
Vernon Street, Burrell Road.
You've got some which are like DFT consultation. So anything that's a consultation, I'll tag as a consultation. Rail, ASL.
I think with all these things, you just need to spend some time playing around with them, don't you?
It is, yeah. So we've got all of the issues that are tagged with that, and all the threads that have been started talking about those. And there's no library items found with that one, which is kind of to be expected.
What are you looking at?
Cycle Ipswich meeting -2014-10.
So where did you get that from? Tags?
So if I scroll down the Cycle Ipswich meetings list far enough, you'll see there's one of the tags there is that.
Yeah.
And so you click that.
You click on the tag itself?
You click on the tag itself, yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yes, so you can click on the tags.
Clickable tag, and it brings up all the ones that have been tagged the same. Gotcha.
Great stuff.
Yeah, thank you.
I found that really useful actually.
Excellent.
Really useful. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time you spent doing that.